Day 554 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is another super quick update as I'm having some technical issues, so hopefully I can even pop this video on. So we'll see how we go. Like I say, perhaps a little bit shorter. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia is sitting on more than 263,000 military personnel losses, with another 610 posted in the past 24 hours. Then as for hardware losses, 13 tanks, 8 APVs, and an astonishingly whopping 31 artillery. Then we'll head over to the map, and we'll start out once again in Russia as Ukrainian drones flying into Russia continued into the new day. So firstly in the Voronezh Oblast, which is just north of the Donbass, as you can see there, which experienced some incoming Ukrainian drones, but then also in Bryansk, so really north, the northernmost tip of Ukraine, or just beyond it, where in today's event, Russia claimed the shooting down of all the Ukrainian drones sent their way. But I am also reminded of just yesterday when Russia stated that the Ukrainian drones then were all neutralized as well, including the ones aimed at the electronic factory for Iskander missile components in Bryansk. But the resultant drone crash precisely and successfully hit the building, putting it on fire anyway. So task failed successfully. And given all of these recent uncrewed one-way drones, aerial drones, flights into Russia in the last day or certainly more, it probably is a good time to mention that some of these drones themselves are likely to be the SIPAC cardboard drones that have been donated from Australia. So these bad boys are of a fixed wing design and are made from waxed cardboard and rubber and are designed to be low-cost, disposable, and easy to use. But to put these puppies into even better perspective, looking at the specs, they have a flight time of 1 to 3 hours depending on their payload, which is about 5 kilos give or take, or about 11 pounds give or take, with a maximum range of up to 120 kilometers. Which doesn't sound that impressive, but do remember that's more than a HIMARS strike, a GIMLARS strike, and about half the range of a Storm Shadow missile. Then, not to forget, the SIPAC drones, these cardboard drones, are less visible to radar than traditional drones. This is because they are made from materials that do not reflect radar waves as well as metal. They're also much more lightweight or lighter weight than traditional drones, which in turn again affects its cross-radar section, reducing it even further. As such, they're very well designed for missions where stealth is important. Now, having said all that, they're quite well designed for Russian border oblasts, but they were not the ones used for taking out yesterday's 4 or so IL-76 transport planes in Russia, really far up north, about 700 kilometers north. Just a bit too far for these guys. But they still do certainly play their part in this ever-changing warring landscape. Then we'll head back into the Ukrainian map there today, as start out in the Donbass, as Russian bloggers have been discussing the Russian officer losses in the actual Donbass conflict itself, stating that the difference in how the two sides are managing their junior command personnel is having a big impact on the war. For instance, the Russian commanders are held or placed right at the front lines, inevitably leading to their own eliminations, particularly due to effective Ukrainian artillery. And so junior command staff losses matter because they impact the effectiveness of managing the troops on the ground. Then more specifically in the Donbass, taking a look at Avdiivka. It's as it's not really a place that you'd expect a forward movement from the Ukrainian forces here. But this time they recaptured positions just north of Krasnohorivka, positions at the railway. Then quickly moving down in Mariupol, a base, Russian military base, was also reportedly on fire there as well. And then somewhere else in the east, we also saw some footage of a Russian Ural 4320 fuel tank going up in some incredible flames as Ukraine continues to prioritize striking at Russia's logistical capabilities in the region. Then we'll head across to the Velika Novosilka axis as just outside of Zavitne Bazanya. So there it is. So really the next new front line or contact point in the region, where Ukrainian forces from the Omega Special Forces Detachment targeted a Russian BMP-3 with an FPV loitering munition, causing a fire and eventual catastrophic ammunition detonation. And again, it's not just the tanks that do this, it's also the infantry fighting vehicles as well, of which this one, the BMP-3, is quite susceptible to this untimely demise, let's say. Then we'll head across to where most of the action is today, as on the Orikiv axis, because Ukrainian forces have since visually confirmed breaking through the primary Russian defense lines west of Verbova. And it's getting pretty impressive considering all of those fortified cope cone defenses Russia put here and many other places have not been as effective as Russia would have hoped. Now, unfortunately for Russia, they used something that is sometimes referred to as Chinesium for the cope cones, meaning that they used cheaper concrete that would just weather away and crumble. Not to mention they're very, very tiny and not actually inserted into the ground like they should be. Instead, they were just placed on top of the grass instead. Now, as for Verbova, the village is integrated into the Russian defenses, and it's not clear if Ukraine is trying to push inside the village or if they are just widening the flanks to disrupt Russian operations in the region. But then also do note that another Ukrainian deep strike force operates east of Novoprokopivka, as Ukraine obviously looks to liberate that settlement as well. So a lot's been happening in this region, including the addition of Russian POWs, which is a replenishment for the exchange fund, and you'll see them walking behind the Ukrainian soldier in this video briefly. Then we'll head across to the Kherson Oblast just for a moment, as couple of things here. Firstly, yet another Mr. S 152mm Russian SPG was taken out. So this is really the mechanized artillery, if you will, the big old gun on wheels, the howitzer on tracks. But then also a fire was noted on the Russian occupied side of the left bank of the Dnipro River near Kherson, just opposite to it as well. So Russia is certainly being kept on its toes in this region. Then moving down on the map, as Crimea continued to not have a quiet day, this time explosions were reported in Feodosia, which has always been a location of a notable buildup of Russian forces due to there's a nearby airbase, as you can see there. It's also a close control point to the Kerch Bridge, making Feodosia a key point for controlling shipping traffic in the region. And naturally, there's air defenses and military bases there as well. Then we'll head across to some quick news for today. So Switzerland has donated some demining machines to Ukraine. And these machines come in all different shapes and sizes, but almost always look like the stuff of your worst nightmares. And this one happens to be remote controlled, so pretty neat stuff. Then also in some news, this one's a bit of an oddity, but China appeared to update their maps in such a way as to declare a small portion of Russian territory as China's own instead. Now, all of this actually happened on the complete other side of the country for Russia, where China shares a border, but really a location that China has a lot of better access to. As such, this makes it likely that Russia will have to completely ignore this recent development, Because, as you can imagine, Russia has no additional available military strength to fend off another potential military engagement, especially since China is a partial ally that's needed so much right now for Russia. And so perhaps China has done this just to see what they could get away with and keep going a little further, a little bit further each time. And this is certainly what China likes to do. They're not shy about it because just around the same time, China also claimed a small area of India against which India already protested profusely. And they did so just a couple of days ago. But it's funny how all of the parties here are some of, if not the biggest countries in the world, at least where Russia is concerned. China has a lot of land. Indeed, India's got quite large swaths of land as well. But Russia and China always looking for that little bit more land. Also, more importantly, this must be mentioned, this does not help to show any solidarity or unity between these BRICS members. And BRICS is just a collection of states that seek to overthrow the existing power dynamic of the West's rules-based global order and monetary hegemony, as some of these BRICS countries would like to phrase it as. Then a quick funny to round it all off for today, guys. So as a result of yesterday's successful Ukrainian strikes on Russian military infrastructure, you may remember the burning of the Il-76 transport aircraft. Now, Russia's Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, has now ordered Russia's largest air defense systems manufacturers to ramp up production and work around the clock. But this announcement is really just a bunch of hogwash symbolism, as Russian air defense producers, manufacturers, contractors have already previously been reported as working around the clock 24/7 to achieve a measly 8% increase in production, which probably realistically means a 40% decrease in real terms. But back to what Shoigu said, the mere fact that he would even say this 1.5 years into the war makes it all look a little bit too little too late. It also makes the Russian MOD look incompetent to the general Russian public. But hey, also, Shoigu is Putin's long-term fall guy. I'm quite sure of this. Because Putin cannot really fire or defenestrate every military member involved in this war. Otherwise, that then makes Putin inevitably look like he's been the only consistent player behind the wheel this whole time. So for when things go south, or even more south than they currently are, Putin could just simply deflect blame on this yes man. But as for now, I think Shoigu's position in this war is pretty safe. Until the very end, at least. And so, as for Russian air defense misgivings, Russia literally has the largest airspace in the world, for which they could not hope to protect even a small portion of it, now or later. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I've really kept things extra short and simple today. I've spent most of my time working out all of these technical bugs and issues, but I always love to keep you guys posted on a little few, new things here and there. So thanks again for watching, guys. Please leave a comment, subscribe, hit that like button, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.